Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We think that since the process of arms emerged in Syria, we think this Al-Assad systematically oppressed the citizens' voices inside this country. We say there is, even if we keep the current framework, we think there is no way to capture Al-Assad and bring him into the justice. We say we stand here with personal motion in order to bring him into justice, in order for the retribution to the family members, and the retribution to the people who were sacrificed in those oppressed regimes. That is why we stand here first. Our goal is very clear. Within this country, international community, we need to intervene in Syria. And we think the aim of this intervention itself is capture Al-Assad and bring them into the justice system, bring them into the international criminal court, and bring him into justice system. That is our main aim. We think this finishing that aim within this country, this international community, we support, for example, the construction of the free fair elections. We think that is fine for this country, international community to intervene this country within if that's the end in this community's operation. Thank you. And based on this moment, I have three some kind of analysis. First, I want to tell you why international community have a right to intervene in these cases, why sovereignty can be compromised. Second, I want to tell you why justice should be done to the people, and why the current framework itself will never bring it into the reality. Third, I want to tell you why how policy is an effective way to bring them into the justice system.
So you mean go to send to court means ICC doing such kind of trial?
Well, because we think the ICC's skills in prosecuting crimes against humanity, we think Al-Assad clearly fits this criteria in the first place. On to the first issue about solving this issue. So I think on this side of the house, it's clear legitimacy for international community to intervene in these cases and impose their own judicial system. Because we think this sovereignty itself is not absolute thing. Because sovereignty only exists when this country actively reflects the wills of the people inside this country. If it happens, there's no way for other countries to say about this domestic issue. We think that doesn't apply in this sense. Especially given that Al-Assad itself is dictator, we don't think these people are reflecting citizens as well. And second, we think more importantly, Al-Assad is actively oppressing the people who want to vote out in the first place. That's why even if these people want to express their own will, if this Al-Assad is systematically oppressing the voices, we think there is no way, for the sovereignty stand in those cases. That's why we think Al-Assad has a moral legitimacy to take this policy. On to the second issue, why justice should be done to these cases? Well, we think this justice should be done because we think this, as I told you, they are systematically oppressed in those cases. If there are thousands of protests which is flowed into the world, which was systematically shot by the Syrian army in this case. If there are thousands of people who were killed in those cases, we need retribution to these people in order to compensate for the life for these people. And secondly, we need compensation for the family members of the citizens who saw their family members dying in their own arms. We say, given that this situation, we see necessity to take this policy. We think, no, thank you. The current framework itself, will not solve the problem. Because firstly, because we think it's dictated, that these people are dictators, we don't think there's any room for other person to sue these people. And secondly, we think domestic judiciary does not exist as an independent arbiter to judge these cases. So we think, no, thank you. We think, given that these factors, we think the current framework do not bring them into the justice system. That's why we think we see necessity for the international community to act and legitimacy to act. So on to the third issue, what our policy is an effective way, to bring them to the justice system. We think our policy, our sovereignty will end in a clean way. Because we think there are two reasons why we can say so. Firstly, within this international community's army itself is technologically far superior to the armies which exist in the Syria in the first place. But given that Syria's army haven't fought for 30 years against other countries, we think these arms, these cases itself is outdated. We think this international community, with the United States of America or the other countries' arm itself, is an effective way to tackle the army in the first place. We think this, and the second reason why we can say so is because we think if those army was entirely fought by the other to be changed. Within these people has to support other nations and support elections. Something required of people, frankly. But more importantly, the citizens itself is already ready is already prepared for other country intervention. Given that, for example, frankly, in recent years, there is a free Syrian army which is constructed by the real Al-Assad. We think there are other organizations which is against the Syrian government named Free Officers Movement. We think this year's September, these two organizations come together and announce the merger and become more coherent. We think that people who is opposing the Syrian government itself is become more coherent, and these people is ready for the other country of intervention of country. We think these people are supporting the other side of the other side. We think if this nation do intervene in these cases, we think these people, these will support the international community. We think this is very benefit. Because I think if we capture this Al-Assad, we think that we can bring them into the justice system. Why? Because this international criminal court itself is an effective way to adjudicate the person. Because first, we think this process itself is open to the public. It is transparent. Transparency is kept in the international criminal court. We think the citizens inside this country can see process these people are judged in the first place. We think this is getting more difficulty the new government they construct in these cases. Secondly, as I told you, we see clearly the retribution to the citizens in this country. For that reason, we will think the current framework will never bring him to justice, and our policy does not be that approach. Thank you.
Thank the Prime Minister for his speech, and now to indicate both side opposition, may I please ask the opposition leader, please. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The state of the government's model today does not support the motions, which explicitly say that we're going to only try it, and it doesn't mention anything about having military intervention. We think this is absolutely unacceptable. But the thing is, we think we still can come up with plans so that we're going to kindly go with their motion, but still to present you with positive harms and reasons of why we think this motion, in their case, should never stand. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we think my first point is going to be why we think that this is going to undermine the ICC by saying that, well, if the ICC thinks it is very bad, it's going to even justify military intervention, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think this is the ideology which any other Arabic nation around them who are in support of Assad right now is going to accept and therefore undermine it. Secondly, I'm going to tell you why probably the newly elected government is going to be also dysfunctional, and we think that is pretty bad. Now, before going into these points, I'm going to quickly address what we heard from the opening government so far. Now, first of all, well, they said that there is a very bad thing going on in Syria right now, and therefore this intervention can be justified. And they said that therefore ICC has a role to take in it. Ladies and gentlemen, ICC only acts in the case when there has been a fundamental violation of humanity, such as genocide. I don't think genocide, most of them, has been a great issue in Syrian revolution so far. Well, maybe all Assad has done so far is maybe, well, I admit, democratically he has been a little bit problematic, but he has been responding to riots in a very bad way, and I think that is a problem. But this is not something that ICC should get involved. What government says is that when you have no democracy, or when you fail to address violence, that is a justification of an intervention, and that is going to stimulate other nations which do believe in non-democracy. And that's going to undermine it. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, they told us that people have called for intervention, therefore it's justified. No, sit down. We think this is not true. Ladies and gentlemen, the Syrian revolution has only been happening in urban areas, and it is supported by the rich majority who get access to Twitter and this kind of thing. The vast majority who live in the poorer areas of rural areas hasn't been supporting it, ladies and gentlemen. And also, what this does is that this is going to empower those people in the rural areas not to support the newly elected government, because it's going to be seen as a Western thing, and therefore it is going to be harmful. Now, having told you this first point, which is about why we think that this is going to undermine the ICC, well, yes.
Given that Al-Assad is supported by Alawi and systematically murder and massacre the people who is against their own religion in the first place, what can you say this is the crimes against humanity?
Well, it is not, because that's not really based on religion much. What they have done is that they have responded to riots who are claiming for democracy. When we think that democracy, the non-democracy, is a perfectly fine thing, a fine political system for anyone to pursue. We think that China is a completely fine nation because we think that they are actually doing well without democracy. We don't intervene in China just because they don't have a democracy. We think that there is no problem here. So the first point is about why we think that this is going to undermine the role of the ICC. Now, ladies and gentlemen, like I told you, what's happening in Syria so far is not a crime against humanity, and for the reasons I have mentioned so far. And what's going to happen when you say that just because you have violated the principle of democracy and you have been failing to deal with domestic violence so far, is that this is going to make other nations which share the same characteristic fear the ICC, ladies and gentlemen. So the other Arab nations, which are not exactly so democratic, or other nations like in Southeast Asia, which has a problem with human rights to some extent, are all going to either withdraw from the ICC or be uncooperative to the ICC. Notice that, and we think this is a very problem. Another reason why we think this is going to undermine the role of the ICC is because this is going to be seen as very Western. Only the Western nations which have democracy and all these kind of things, and they're going to use it as a justification to intervene. So what is going on? And we think that they're going to say that ICC is a neutral ideology, supported by everyone, knows that. But the thing is how Assad and other Arab nations is going to perceive it. They're obviously going to claim that this is a Western thing and it is like picking on us selectively, and that is going to be harmful, knows it down. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what happens when the other nations withdraw from ICC is that ICC has absolutely no way of acting on problems that may happen in the future in these nations, because the ICC only extends its power to the nations which have signed in, notice that. And also, in order to arrest dictators, or in order to actually exert any political capital on dictators, is that we need the cooperation of other nations which have economic relationships and so on, ladies and gentlemen. Also, dictators often hide to neighboring supporting nations when they see that they are under threat. We want these nations to be cooperative to the ICC, so they can't do that, ladies and gentlemen. After taking this proposal, they're going to stop doing that. I think that is a great problem. Second point is about how we think the newly elected government is also not going to be supported. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think this policy is going to undermine the power of the on-the-ground revolution happening in Syria. Now, even if, like you see, that the newly elected governments may come up, but the thing is, the Arabic nations who are very friendly to Al-Assad right now are the people who are supporting Assad right now. By the way, they are very strong, and that's why this revolution is taking so long. This is not happening at the ending in like 3 months, like it happened in Egypt, in like 14 days, rather, like it happened in Egypt. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going to happen is that they're going to claim that the West has imposed their value on us. The Syrian revolution are not fighting for Syria. What they are doing is fighting for the United States, fighting for the United Kingdom and the other Western imperialists, ladies and gentlemen. So that is going to undermine the revolution. The only reason why the revolution was successful in places like Egypt is because the people who are slow in terms of getting information, like people living in the rural area, buy into the ideologies of the revolters, because they were fighting for Egypt and there was not much pressure from other nations, ladies and gentlemen. What's going to happen is that they're going to have the government, Assad supporters are going to actively spread rumors within rural areas saying that you should oppose a newly elected government. and there's not going to be support. And what you're going to is a really bad situation where the world that battle is going to be perpetual, like we see in Afghanistan. When we intervene in Afghanistan, without getting rid of the ideological tensions, ladies and gentlemen, it has led to a chaos for 10 years. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to happen when we say that we're going to intervene just for our purposes, which is upholding democracy, and even involving the ICC in this. So, ladies and gentlemen, because they haven't really told us why ICC is a just actor in intervening, ladies and gentlemen, we think it's going to cause all problems. Thank you.
Opposition leader for speech. And now, we have please call on deputy comment and continue the case for Sato.
Mr. Speaker, Al-Assad has been a political leader of Syria for the past decades, and he has infringed upon the will of the people, which is the reason why we have to intervene in those instances and try to, Mr. Speaker. But only that, for example, the past year or so, he has actively oppressed people. We have seen much what is going on in the rural areas of Syria, and that is the exact reason why we need this retrospect for justice, and more, we have to end this term, and that is why we are extremely proud. First of all, let me engage with what the previous speaker said. In response to the argument, the legal opposition told us, what Assad is doing is not desirable, but nonetheless it doesn't apply for the criteria on which the ICC can use to try people. Mr. Speaker, firstly, that is ridiculous, right? Because obviously, Mr. Speaker, the Assad is actively oppressing the people who are going into streets to protest against it, right? Hundreds of thousands of people have been injured and killed so far. Mr. Speaker, this is something which applies as, for example, violence by the dictator, upon the people who are claiming for the fundamental right to access liberty and moreover to get to choose their own leaders. And Mr. Speaker, we feel this is vital. But secondly, more importantly, in addition to this, Assad systematically, we think that the operational violence done by the Assad is partially based upon the religious difference, right? Because Assad is coming from Alawis, which are, for example, share the similar belief to Shia, right? But the majority of the population in Syria are for example, they share the belief to Sunni, right? And therefore, Mr. Speaker, Assad mainly systematically targeting the Sunni group, Mr. Speaker, systematically targeting one group and oppressing them is what exactly applies as the crime against humanity, Mr. Speaker, which is the criteria which ICC used, and therefore all of this claim with regards to this criteria which ICC used does not stand in this way for these two reasons. Now, another rebuttal we got from the legal opposition in response to the argument is that, the Syrian people are not really entirely against the Assad regime because we only see protests in rural areas. But it might be true that some people living in rural areas are explicitly expressing their, for example, will against Assad. But think about it based on the common sense. Who likes oppressive leaders? Who infringe upon the fundamental rights, for example, by rejecting to have a free election, etc., etc. We think it's very general consensus in the Syrian population that they have to reject these oppressive leaders, so to speak, because they are being oppressed. They are not given the right, for example, to elect the leaders so that they can, achieve any kind of self-fulfillment under these policies, right? And therefore, we think there is general consensus, and based upon this, Mr. Speaker, we think there's a legitimacy for us to act against him, and that is why we think there's nothing wrong with our policy. Now, okay, the legal bit of claim with the other, right? He said the motion is mentioning about the Western intervention. Well, let's deal with it. Mr. Speaker, we had firstly, the aim of intervention is to strike, right, which the motion stipulates, and therefore there's nothing wrong with the army model. But secondly, the reason why we are going to have the Western army intervene is because we have to accept the reality that there's a significant power imbalance between the protesters and also the army held by the Syrian government, right? Although it is true that Syrian government has not fought war with other countries for the past 30 years, and therefore their army is outdated in comparison with the Western army, but nonetheless there's a power imbalance with those people who are not having arms, right? And that is why the Western intervention is necessary in order to fight in a realistic manner. So moving on to refute to their circumstances. Now in the first circumstance we said we are going to undermine the legitimacy of ICC, and then we should not do it. First thing is it is not true that ICC is seen as the ally of the West, right? Well, okay, as an example, let's look at the judges, Mr. Speaker, the country with judges. or ICC come from? Well, like there are quota in the, for example, judges of ICC, right? So only like less than half of the judges coming from the Western countries in ICC, right? And then clearly, ICC incorporates, for example, like Asian judges, like African judges by certain quota, and therefore they are in no way Western country, like Western, right? And secondly, more importantly, the criteria ICC used to intervene in certain countries to try to certain political leaders. It's not like whether, for example, like those leaders are in the Western or those leaders in Arab, right? So that is not the criteria. The criteria ICC used is whether the political leader is oppressing their people or whether the like leader is like engaging in atrocities, right? And that is the Western or like Arabic is never the criteria ICC used, right? And based upon this, Mr. Speaker, we already ICC already tried many like dictators, like for example, like non-Western countries, but still we don't think like ICC has fear about trying people outside the Western, because with the primary goal of ICC is to try anyone, like for example, commit like crime, etc. And if we meet this criteria, there's nothing wrong with ICC trying people outside the Western countries, given the fact that it is clearly not the ally of the West, and moreover, it is not seen as it. And that is why for these two reasons, we don't think they are force-talking stance, no focus here. So moving on to like rather family and family, what we say is that it is rather better that ICC is going to try it, right? Because it will like further bring more deterrence up on the shoulder of the Arabian political leaders, right? Because none of the Arabian political leaders think that, like for example, first of all, we accept that Arabian leaders already a bit undemocratic, but there's not a traitor ICC specifically used, right? But the moment, for example, the Arabian leaders radicalize into to the extent, for example, the oppressed protesters on the street, then they will be tried by the ICC, and there will be massive deterrence effect upon the ICC, Arabian leaders not to go over the top, and that's why we think trial by the ICC is rather better for the situation of Arab.
Okay, don't you think like organic changes like economic tension is successful right now is way more than the real military intervention, which causes a lot of polarization?
Mr. Speaker, for the past year, Mr. Speaker, we think we have tried a lot of things against Syria, right? But we've seen that, for example, people continue oppressed, and over enough number of people have been killed, and that is why we think it's now the time for us to intervene in Syria so that we can have, we can achieve prospective justice in the sense that no more people should be killed, moreover we can have prospective justice, which is that people who are killed can gain justice by punishing this Al-Assad. So last thing, finally, let me deal with the second argument, which we think that newly elected leaders will be out-oppressive as Al-Assad for uncertain reason. Mr. Speaker, the distinction here between countries like Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria is the existence of opposition movement, right? But according to the torture, why? How there is already a credible opposition, factions, and secondly, as I said, the general process inside Syria, that actually the existence or the rule of Al-Assad is something they do not desire, right? And therefore, there's a significant distinction between countries like Iraq and Afghanistan, where there was no massive opposition movement before the Western country go in. That is why we have the quagmire in those countries, right? And that's because of this distinction, there will be no quagmire in the case of Syria, even after we try it, right? And therefore, none of the argument actually stands. So, Mr. Speaker, briefly, Mr. Speaker, lastly, we have to accept that, unlike what the closing opposition said, we have things like sanction, or for example, any other measure has not worked in the case of Syria. People have been killed. Now that we have to ensure that there is prospective and retrospective justice for many reasons, we are extremely proud to propose.
Because Al-Assad disappeared from the Syria country, actually their goal can be achieved. However, Mr. Speaker, they never told you why the
ICC is vulnerable, and why ICC's decision-making process or trial is good. They never told it. So therefore we say they never support this motion, Mr. Speaker. Anyway, I want to have two arguments about the ICC credibility, and secondly, how internal change is disturbed by this motion. Anyway, firstly, we pointed out about the characteristic of the ICC and why this proposal is making ICC as same as West. The arrow clearly told that we Western government, Western nation have to intervene, such as the Syrian nation. That is what the clearly arrow told you. And we say that because the helicopter or maybe sometimes the other very good super jets flyer or so coming into Syria and go to the special force SAS or sometimes the other forces, and suddenly the knock down the Al-Assad's room and capture him and go to the heart or so. Such types of act seen as from the people, it is the intervention of the Western government, Mr. Speaker. So therefore we say it is the undermine the ICC legitimacy, and moreover we say it is undermine the internal change of the Syria. So therefore we say it is not good. And firstly we say about the no thank you. The legitimacy to intervene such kind of nation, Mr. Speaker. What's the member Deputy Prime Minister told you that is because Al-Assad killing people, so therefore we can do that, systematically killing people, we can do that. And there is some religious conflict exists, so therefore we can do that. However, Mr. Speaker, please remind that Al-Assad never killing the people randomly because of their religion. Because such of the people doing the riot or sometimes the things, and he doing the, maybe it is too much radical, however, he has legitimacy to do such kind of things, Mr. Speaker. That's simply because they are doing that. What's the meaning of the crime against the humanity? It means as same as the Milosevic or as same as the Al-Assad, it means innocent citizens killing by the no reason, just because the ethnic reason or just because the religious reason, Mr. Speaker. But in this case, we say it is not true, Mr. Speaker. No, thank you. And moreover, we say the harm and damage, the seriousness of the crime is totally different from the Milosevic case or Al-Assad case also. In Darfur, the many people is killing by the people, by unreasonably killing the many people over the 10,000 or 20,000 for people is killing by things. But in Syria, such kind of things doesn't happen. Actually, the 100 people is killed by sometimes the riot. However, it is not as same as the Milosevic reason or other reason or so. So therefore we say that is not true. And proceed.
So this debate is not about evaluating whether Syrian intervention really killed how many number of people. Just look at the state of how the long process of how this revolution is taking place, how many people.
And we say the internal change, making the internal change is the good.